Hello, this is Kevin Bonham, and this is video 4 in a series showing you how to convert your R code into Julia code using JuliaHub. And so in the first few videos, we've shown how you can run R code on JuliaHub in an RStudio environment. We've shown how you can launch the Julia IDE and run your R code there, and then how you can actually run R code inside Julia, the Julia REPL, using the package rcall, again, from the Julia IDE. And in this video, we're going to sort of take those last steps, the last couple of things we need to really make it so that you can have a similar experience with your R code. And then in the next video, we're going to start converting R code into pure Julia. So in this video, I just want to show basically two additional things. So the first is how to display plots, because as we saw earlier, that's a little bit wonky when you're using R code to run plots. And then I'm going to show you a really great package. I'm just going to introduce a really great package called Tidier, which, if you are familiar with the Tidyverse ecosystem in R, is a really great pure Julia re-implementation of basically the whole Tidyverse. So first things first, we're back here in our Julia IDE. You can watch the previous videos to show you how to get here. And if you've been watching the other videos, you might notice I'm on a different computer. One of the great things about JuliaHub is that you can go to a different computer and have a totally different setup and still run your exact same environment, which is quite convenient. So here we've got our notebooks, and so I'm just going to run these cells again to load in our packages using rcall, load in our data, and I'm going to come down here to where we have our plots. So here's our first plot. So this little section here I've added from the previous time. And what this is doing is it's basically, once we run this plot, I'm using, again, within R, some code to just basically produce a file output in using the R code. So we make a PNG, we print that out, and then we sort of close it out so that the file actually gets written. And when we do this, when I run this cell, you'll see over here in our file pane, a new plot will pop up. And this is, we can take a look at it, and this is our plot. This is not the most convenient interface here to have to switch over to whatever plot we've created. We can also add some markdown syntax here to display that plot. So if you are compiling this notebook into a web page or whatever using Quarto, then this syntax here will display that plot when that thing gets compiled. There's one other thing that we can do with Julia to actually show that when we execute the code, bring up a plot pane and actually show it sort of live. And so I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So what this requires is loading two new Julia packages, or installing them. So if you'll recall previously in our project.toml here, we have the two packages that we've installed into this environment. Currently, we're going to add two more. So again, we go into the REPL and we do that close square bracket to bring up the PKG REPL. And then the two packages we're going to load are images and file IO. So images is a really amazing package that allows you to work with image files and image matrices. File IO is a sort of wrapper package that helps you to load and save lots of different file types. So we're going to add these two packages. What you'll see in our project TOML is that those will show up now in our dependencies section as soon as this connects and downloads. All right, there we go. So I should say normally it doesn't take this long. Last time I tried this, it took about maybe like 15 seconds total. So that was quite unusual. But regardless, we've just installed our new packages. You can see they showed up here in project.toml. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load those packages up at the beginning of the notebook, just so we don't forget about it next time. So here where I said using rcall, I'm going to add using images and using file IO. And what this is going to let me do now is it's going to let me load at the end of this plot section where I've created this plot P and G here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say load plot1. Oops, I want to do this outside of the R. So this is Julia code that we're running here. So I'm going to go outside of this R string, and I'm going to say load. Actually, let me do it right here at the end after I've done this. So we'll add another Julia thing here. Add R there, and we'll close out our R code here. And then we'll run the Julia code, just load plot1.png. Right, so now we've got our plot1 PNG here, and now what we'll see is when we run the cell, load not, oh, because I didn't actually run the code where I loaded the Julia package. So let's do that just down here in the REPL using images and file IO, because we can spell it. And then we will run this cell again, and then now we're going to load this plot1 PNG, and now our plot shows up here in our plot pane. Okay, and we, of course, we still have that file here in the corner. There are sort of fancier tricks that we can do to like write a Julia function that will automatically sort of make a temporary file, save it, and display it. I don't think those details are super important because we're going to be moving towards plotting our things in Julia as soon as we can. But for now, this is a sort of way that we can take one more step to transition from Julia, or from R into Julia. So the other thing that I want to show is the package tidyverse. And again, this is a very, very brief introduction. But here we're going to say add tidier, which is the name of this, is a pure Julia package that tries to emulate the syntax of the tidyverse with a couple of exceptions that I'm going to show. So again, we're going to load it in. We look again at our project toml. Once this actually gets installed, this will show up here in our project toml. And tidier itself, when we say add tidier, it actually adds a ton of packages. It's kind of like saying library tidyverse in R. There's a bunch of sort of smaller packages that contain all of the individual little pieces. But I just want to show here that the syntax using tidier can help a little bit with the transition. So they have plotting, they have data manipulation, file loading, etc. So as soon as that loads, I'll just speed up this next section while it compiles. All right, and we're back. So you can see here that we got tidier installed. And what I want to do now is I want to show you that the syntax for tidyverse, or for this tidier package, is very similar to the tidyverse. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start a whole new Julia REPL. So I'm going to exit this one. So we'll start a new one. We'll come back up here to the top and we'll add here using tidier. And you can see tidier has a whole bunch of other packages that are included for dealing with different parts of your data analysis pipeline. We'll get to those a little bit later. But what I want to do here is I want to replace this cell here where we have our code, where we're loading in these two tables and then displaying them. And I want to show you that using tidier, we can use essentially the same syntax to do the exact same thing. So up on top, we have using tidier. And then here, we're going to assign within our Julia code subjects equals read CSV dummy subjects .csv. We're going to do the same thing for samples equals read CSV dummy samples. All right. Double samples.csv. I'm going to remove this chunk of our code. I'm going to just add additional cells so we can see what those tables look like. They're going to come out as Julia data frames. So we're going to add, we're going to add here another Julia show subjects. Subjects. Okay, I'm just going to do the one so we can take a look at it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another Julia cell, Julia move to R. And this is just because we still have a bunch of our code written in R, I'm going to use those macros from our call to move the subjects and samples variables from Julia into R. And we'll see that that happens sort of easily. So here the syntax or the macro is called rput subjects, and then rput samples. Okay, so this is going to move from a Julia data frame to an R table. And hopefully we'll see then when I come down here to my data analysis or my data transformation stuff here, that it's using the things that we loaded now in Julia using tidyr. So let's come up to the top here. We're going to run this cell. It's going to have to load those packages again. I'm going to skip bringing in these R libraries. Actually, no, I might need them for this. So let me go ahead and open those. It's not necessary for the data loading, at least. All right, and then here, again, we're running, this is pure Julia code now. So we're going to run that cell. It's going to load in. Actually, the samples is going to be displayed from this cell. So here you can see we've got a Julia data frame. This is samples. If I run subjects here, it's going to show the subjects as our table here as a data frame. And now when I run here, rput subject and samples, these are now inside, these are now put into the R runtime. So if I just run here R samples, you can see now it's an R table with our samples that gets printed out to the console. And then now I come down here again, running my R code just as I had before. We can run that cell still and we get these completed data joined together. So this is, again, just want to demonstrate that we can use pure Julia code to do the exact same things that we do in R. We can move things back and forth between R and Julia. And so this is really going to help as we transition from our R workflow to a completely Julia workflow. These sort of things can help ease that transition a little bit. All right, so in the next video, we're going to start doing a more complete overhaul of our code and running everything in pure Julia.